I'm in Lijiang shooting some video for a travel project, and I just thought I'd talk about something. I don't think many of you probably believe this, hopefully not, but China is much more than the coast, and that means a lot. The coast of China is the most populated part of China. And that's where you're going to get the largest cities. That's where you're going to get the most people. That's where you're going to get the most industry. And therefore, that's where you're going to get most of the pollution. But China's a big country, vast, and wide-ranging landscapes all over. And you'll find that I'm being pulled, not actually riding a horse, I'm being carried by a horse. Riding requires an actual act of riding. Anyways, I've ridden around the world, a lot of different places, a lot of polluted places, and a lot of very clean and fresh places. I am in one of those places right now. Hello. Hello. I am actually riding through an area near Baisha, which is Baisha? Yeah, I think so. A lot of names of places lately. I'm getting them a little twisted. Yeah, that's right, because I call it Bai He, but the people that lived there were the He, a lot of He people, surnamed He, and anyways, neither here nor there. Anyways, I'm riding a horse, and I'm breathing air that is, beyond the occasional fart from a horse, pretty damn clean. And it makes me think about some of the arguments I hear from people that China's just this nasty wasteland of trash and industry. And in some places, that is true. As a matter of fact, I have been to those places. I live near one of those places. And 10 years ago, I lived in one of those places. Ningbo, the city that I live in China, has really evolved over the last decade from an industrial powerhouse just churning out pollution. Hello. From an industrial powerhouse churning out pollution to a much more civilized, you'd say, put together society with green landscapes and even green rooftops. They've got a bunch of buildings that they're incorporating solar power and green rooftops in to try to control temperature and try to provide a few more oxygenated environments. It's actually come a long way. I'm very impressed with it. And when I hear people talking like how China is just dirty, it's a double-edged thing, you know? Because yes, in some cases it is. But in a lot of cases, more cases I would say it's not. And it's improving by leaps and bounds. I remember when I first started doing business in China, few of them were abiding by the certifications that you had to get in order to be a manufacturer. 9003C, I forget them by now. I used to really deal in them a lot. But nowadays, you can't do business with factories unless they're certified, unless they're providing some clean services. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some dirty factories in China. There most certainly are. But there have been vast improvements. The other caveat to that, I'd say, is that most of those factories are putting out products that have been bought with no complaints from the West. So, you know, China has taken over the role of manufacturing from the United States in many cases, maybe to the detriment of the employees, but to the benefit of the business owners. You can deal with that issue the way that you want to deal with it. But the fact is that instead of making a mess of things in the States, they moved to China and didn't have any problem making a mess of things in China for many, many decades. But things are starting to change. Things are starting to get more expensive to manufacture in China, and those cheap manufacturing, highly polluted projects are moving elsewhere, which I disagree with as well. I mean, obviously we should try to do our best. Hello. We should try to do our best as a global community to cut down on pollution, and I would like to see us all try to move towards that direction. But I'm just saying that, you know, America saying we have the cleanest skies is very true in many ways. But it doesn't mean that China doesn't have clean skies. It doesn't mean that China doesn't have fresh air. And it doesn't mean, oh, there's a guy picking some weeds. It doesn't mean that that China doesn't have environments that could compete with the freshness and cleanliness of the environments in America or anywhere in the West. As a matter of fact, I am headed to a few different ancient cities in China. From this one, I'm headed to Chengdu. I'd already been in Chaozhou. Chaozhou is a coastal city. Chaozhou had beautiful air, beautiful skies, beautiful communities. You know, the other thing is that because most of the people that visit China visit the coast, they have this perception that China is only what they see on the coast, only what they see in these dense cities. And there's a couple of things that aren't fair there. First off, it's unfair to regard an entire country by a populated city. And it's also unfair to regard an entire country by a city that is so populated, its population is exceeding most of the countries that those people are coming from. The entire country. There's more people in Beijing in many cases, or Shanghai, or Shenzhen. Shenzhen actually is quite clean. I love Shenzhen. But the other thing I want to mention is that I actually cycle around the world. I have cycled around all of Southeast Asia. Korea, Japan, Taiwan, back down to Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Malaysia. And one thing I noticed is that when you got around the major population centers, the big cities, they all kind of had the similar structure, right? You had the major city center, which in many cases was clean. The center of Tokyo is very beautiful and very clean. But as you started to work your way out, you'd get to the outskirts of the city, you would find that those cities had highly polluted industrial centers that would supply all of the beautiful, nice things that you had in Tokyo or Osaka. Osaka was one I will never forget. Osaka's industrial area is where you enter when you take the ferry into Japan from Korea. And that's what I did. I took a ferry from Busan into Korea with my three-wheeled recumbent trike. And when I arrived in Osaka, I arrived at the ferry terminal. And that ferry terminal was gross. I mean, we were a stone's throw away from downtown Osaka, and this place was dirty. Factories churning out smoke, all sorts of industrial centers, everything churning out, burning and churning in order to supply products to Osaka. First impressions, smoggy. I've been to Japan a bunch of times, but I just feel like there's this weird smog haze over everything. So maybe this is a more industrial area, but there's definitely a line of smog over everything. I mean, I don't want to say it was like disgusting, but it was certainly a highly industrialized area. I was very surprised. You never see that sort of area when you look at Japan as a whole. The same with northern Japan, the same with Korea, which is very clean country, extremely clean. You get outside the major population centers, especially on a bike, when you're not driving down a highway. I'm going down side streets, I'm going down roads along the coast that normally are traveled by big trucks, supplying products and raw materials different places. And I would come upon all sorts of fairly nasty environments. I saw the same when I was cycling around Taiwan. I saw the same when I was in Vietnam, and I saw the same, almost everywhere I've been. Even I've been to New Zealand. New Zealand, oh my God. I went to New Zealand from Beijing, and Beijing had one of the worst air days that has ever been recorded. It actually peaked the air quality meter. It was like 800 parts per million or something. And I flew from that into New Zealand's airport. Wellington, I think? Was it Wellington? I forget the name of it, but I flew into that airport. I remember opening up the door, and I took a breath. It was such clean air that it was actually a reverse pollution effect. I was like, I was coughing because the air was so damn clean. And so I thought, oh man, there can be no pollution in dirty areas in New Zealand. What? Oh, 真的? We went off a little bit crazy. We were supposed to stay closer, but apparently we went off on a little walk here. So my director here of the travel show is like, "Where did you guys go?" Anyways, when I got to New Zealand, one of the jobs that I had actually was to make videos of recycling centers that were crushing up waste, tires and bottles and plastics and all sorts of garbage. So where did I go? I went to New Zealand's industrial areas. And you know what? It was industrial. And it was, you know, a bit messy, because that's what is required when you have a country. You know, you got to supply that country with goods and services, and some of those goods and services are a bit messy. Now, New Zealand was very clean, actually. It was very, very clean, and with the exception being that the places that I visited, but even those places had some fairly high standards, maybe better standards than I had seen even in the factory districts in the United States. But I grew up in Detroit in the United States, and those places are fairly, you know, dirty and industrialized. And you know, when you're an old American city and your backbone is manufacturing, you're gonna get a little grease under your fingernails. You're gonna get a little dirt on your face from a citywide standpoint. And so, you know, I just wanted to make this video to give you some objective, some nuance to the argument that China is just dirty. China is actually very nice. China's clean. It's got some beautiful areas. It's got some beautiful people, and it's got a lot of nature. Even right outside here, we went to a nature reserve, and there was all sorts of birds. 你好。那边路走，靠那边路走，靠那边路。对。There was also. Do you want me to 拍或者没拍？拍着呢。Okay. And you know, there were areas that. Oh shit! I don't even know what I was saying. I got sidetracked. Anyways, I just want to tell you that there are some beautiful, clean places in China, and there's some very dirty places in China. The dirty places are working on it. They've done pretty good in the last decade, and I think that they're going to do it even more to improve the lifestyle here. But to label China as just a dirty, disgusting place would be doing China a disservice. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you want to follow me on Patreon, you can listen to some podcasts there. And join my social media. I'm filming all sorts of cool videos here in Lijiang, and then moving on. And yeah, we'll talk to you later. The pollution here is sneaky. It's like hiding on me. Hey guys, I just want to make a little addendum to this video, actually, because I've been accused on a number of occasions of being painting with too broad of a brush, and I hate to do that. And I was just thinking about the amount of time I've spent in China and the amount of pollution I've encountered. I've encountered a massive amount of pollution. Pollution that supersedes any pollution I've ever seen anywhere else in the world. For example, me leaving Beijing that day when it was the highest recorded polluted day anywhere in the world, pretty much. I think it superseded that in LA recently due to the fires, but that was more of a natural occurrence. I have had to restrict my leaving my house because the AQI was too high. I've wanted to exercise, go outside and enjoy the outdoors, and I simply couldn't. I've had instances where when Eva was younger, I would be nervous about her going outside. She has to go to school and have a domed area where she plays that has a controlled air area. She has not had to use it recently, but it's there, and just having it being there is kind of crazy. But again, these are instances along coastal cities, and China is much more than just these coastal cities. And I just wanted to make sure that I gave that caveat. China can be extremely polluted. and so much so that it's sort of intoxicating how polluted it is. But like I said, I see improvement, and so I want to make sure to address that. And I also wanted to say that China as a whole is more than just polluted cesspools. There's a lot of places just like the place I'm at right now, and I thought this was a good opportunity to actually bring that to light. But again, I don't want to gloss over the fact that China still has a long way to go, and there are areas in China even today that are still polluted. You know, COVID, if you're watching this video right now, we are in the midst of COVID times. I think that the pandemic has put a real impact on industry in China, and has created a kind of an opportunity to restrict some of the manufacturing and allow nature to kind of take hold and air to clean up. And hopefully they've learned a little bit, and they won't go back completely to the way it was, and that they can learn some lessons from the time that the world has been pressured under this pandemic. But today in Lijiang, it's a beautiful day. I would say that probably 90% of China is a lot like this, if not more. It's just a slim ridge of populated coastline that has created the stigma of China being dirty and disgusting. And I think that's unfair. Anyways, that's what I wanted to say. Now you can turn off the video or watch one of my other ones.